Ho ho ho, you cheeky motherfuckers. I was just about to start editing another video for Nightmare of the Wolf, and then you give me all this new footage. I nearly missed that. Alright, okay, let's get into the new trailer that they've released. So you can see what looks to be Tetra and Vesemir traveling through some sort of wilderness. This looks to be a much bigger look at Kaer Morhen, so you can see the witches here with the swords on their backs. And yeah, the design is definitely very unique and different to what we've seen in the games. And does it look exactly like what we've seen in the show's trailers? It might not be. I think some of the towers and stuff are still intact when they weren't before. Oh, actually, no, the gatehouse is definitely bigger. Yeah, so it seems the anime is definitely taking a lot more creative liberties with the actual design of the castle.
Do you know what's involved in making a witch?
So this is a look inside the lab at Kaer Morhen where they create the witches. Alright, and this is a much darker look. There's no witch hers in this picture. Well, not yet. But these all seem to be mages because the people who actually designed the process for creating the witches were mages. Witches oversaw it more and more as the years went by and the mages moved on. But back in Vesemir's day, this would be more how it's done. And it's interesting to see this connection that they have to mages as that comes up later in the trailer.
They'll poison us. They'll kill us.
So here you can see what looks to be a much worse version of the toxicity effect when a witcher has too many of their potions. So this seems to be someone who either has died becoming a witcher or is still becoming a witcher and they don't have full immunity to the toxins, and you can see the effects all over their face and their eyes.
Then bring us.
This animation looks very Avatar The Last Airbender, and I'll be pointing that out a few more times as the trailer goes on. And I take it this character is some sort of childhood friend of Vesemir because they went through the witcher training together. I don't think we see him at any other point in the trailer like as an adult, so I get the feeling he's going to die during the mutations, which should really help convey to the audience how deadly this process is.
It's back, but we won't be normal.
So this is when the classic witcher eyes first form.
I get scared too. Then I think, soon I'll be...
Now here, we get a look at Vesemir's Witcher medallion. Very notably, it doesn't have the two scratches on it that it gets later. So something is going to happen to Vesemir. My guess is a monster strike because it looks like kind of like two claws that went across. Perhaps this scene with Vesemir in this swamp-like environment was part of the ritual to first get his Witcher medallion. Although in this scene, I don't think he has the Witcher eyes, so probably not.
Soon I'll be stronger than most anyone, wanting for nothing. I'll never be scared again.
So I'll never be scared again. It kind of looks like all this bravado that Vesemir's character has as an adult is in a way a coping mechanism for the trauma he had as a kid.
See, I'm a monster hunter.
And here you can see the Witcher medallion has the scratches on it.
Phil, babe.
Alright, now this is a much bigger look at the Leshen, or Leshy. So in the games it was very thin and skeletal, whereas in the show it's this huge, like, hulking monster. Vesemir here is really wrestling with it. They did say that this Leshy is a different kind, so I do still wonder if this is unique to this specific one. Also, as a side note, I wonder if this Leshy is the exact same one that will later appear in Season 2 of the main show, because they've been drawing a lot of attention to it in the promotional material.
And friends don't pay bills. If you witches labored for more, just go in. These pleasures do not pay for themselves. Filavandrel.
Alrighty, so this is Filavandrel, who appeared in The Witcher Season 1. He used to be a very powerful king of the elves, but as the humans settled the continent, his people were all displaced as their lands were invaded. And he became one of the leading figures in trying to rebuild the elven race and find a new home for them. But that was closer to the timeline of the main series when we see them hiding out in the mountains in Dol Blathanna, where Geralt and Jaskier meet them. This Filavandrel, given how much prominence he's given in this trailer, what we know from the time period, and how he's appealing to Vesemir, it gives me the impression he's taking a much more active role to preserve what they have, rather than accepting that the humans have won. So Filavandrel is trying to recruit Vesemir to his side, perhaps in an early iteration of the Scoia'tael. I don't think the faction became labelled as the Scoia'tael until much later, but the non-humans seem to be banding together in a much more significant force against the humans, and I think Filavandrel wanted the witches to join his side, and he's getting frustrated because Vesemir here being a classic example, they just don't care. All most of them really want to do is just kill monsters and spend the money and move on. This behaviour likely causes many of them to underestimate the threat of human xenophobia, contributing to their downfall. So we got this shot again from one of the other trailers. It kind of looks like Toussaint, which would very much fit the like vampire heavy theme that we've been getting. But I get the feeling from the trailers that this is focused very much in the northern realms, so I doubt it's actually Toussaint. It's much more likely that this is Ardkarag, the capital of the Kingdom of Kedwen, which has Kaer Morhen in its northern regions. Alright, so here we have what looks to be some sort of witch or herbalist, or druid, as I will be speculating as we get later into the trailer. And I suppose it makes sense that Vesemir would be in a place like this. The witches have to keep restocking their collection of herbs in order to make their potions, which really enhance their abilities in battle. So witches and herbalists are natural partners.
Whatever is murdering our people in the woods outside Ardkarag.
Oh, well that was a horrible spot to pause on, but I might as well just leave it now that I've done it. So yeah, it looks like we're getting a first-hand look at the damage the Leshy is causing. The trailer's editing makes it look like the Leshy is outside Ardkarag. However, given the confirmed appearance of a Leshy at Kaer Morhen in The Witcher Season 2, this scene here is likely near the Witcher Fortress. This tracks with the druid sending along Tetra, who appears to be fighting vampires later in this trailer, and not a Leshy.
You'll take a shot.
And so here we have Tetra looking over a corpse from a monster attack. It could be one of the vampires given how his skin is all like blackened. Maybe that's from the blood loss. Because she seems much more associated with the vampire story than the Leshy story from what we've seen in the trailers. Also quite interesting. There is an elf here in a hood watching her. This might be Filavandrel again, but he kind of looks different, although it may just be the lighting from before and we're seeing him from far away now. So perhaps her association with Vesemir has led to Filavandrel or one of his subordinates investigating her. Or maybe this is a vampire and it's inspecting who's going after it.
You'll take a chaperone, too.
Right. So, my speculation's going off the Richter now. Because in the last video, I was like, she uses a bow? Is she a sorceress? I don't understand. Is she related to Vesemir, who's Geralt's mum? Who the hell is this person? Okay, yes, she can definitely use magic. I'd say the possible relation to Geralt's mother is becoming more and more and more likely. But given the different name and the fact that she doesn't have red hair, I am assuming it is either Vesemir's sister or mother. So this would be Geralt of Rivia's grandmother or aunt. And this might confuse some people because in both the books and the show, mages struggle a lot to have kids. In the show, they made up some crap about cutting out their uterus and burning it on an altar to make them look pretty, which was really weird. But in the books, it's just a side effect of attuning to magic. It often sterilizes the mage. But some mages seem to have a natural immunity to this process, and despite being powerful mages, they can actually keep having kids, and Geralt's mum is one of those people. And Vesemir was a druid, which is why I think given this character's close resemblance to her, that a lot of the mages we'll be seeing in this trailer are druids. And it kind of makes sense that mages that are much more in touch with nature would retain their ability to reproduce, at least thematically. And also, the older druid from earlier said that she will be Vesemir's guide, so that looks to be how Tetra and Vesemir will first meet.
No intention of playing.
Here you can see the interior of some elven ruins that have shown up a lot in this show's trailers.
Guide you, witch.
I know these forests.
So yeah, she is definitely pretty freaking powerful.
Might have slightly underestimated you. Slightly.
As did we both.
Oh.
Alright, so these look to be either some sort of wraith, given the ghostly sort of appearance here. They could also be water hags, and they might just be going for more of a flashy appearance for those in the anime. Because in the games, they were all slimy and fleshy and disgusting. Okay, yeah, definitely looking more like a wraith, and you can see it's kidnapping someone.
Suggesting the witches have been staging these attacks.
So, first off, again, look how Avatar The Last Airbender this animation looks. You can really tell it's the same director. And this king, I'm not sure which kingdom he's ruling. Probably Kedwin. A cool detail is when Vesemir held up a coin earlier, it was minted with this king's likeness. But he's suggesting that the witches have been staging monster attacks. So I feel like this king could be trying to deflect blame from somehow screwing up and failing to manage this monster crisis. And he's trying to get the witches to bear the brunt of the blame, which will do a massive blow to the Witcher reputation and help cause the eventual destruction of Kaer Morhen.
Suggesting the witches have been staging these attacks.
So from the previous trailer, I think we can kind of guarantee that this is a vampire, not just some innocent woman that the Witcher is tied to a bed. This looks to be Deglin, who is a character confirmed to be Vesemir's mentor. And given that Vesemir is still a kid and they're traveling together, I think we're going to be seeing some flashbacks to Vesemir on his way to Kaer Morhen for the first time and actually seeing some witches in action before he becomes one. And also, this could actually tie to one of the common superstitions in the world of The Witcher, which is that people aren't born vampires all the time. They can become vampires, like if you get bitten. That is not a thing in The Witcher at all. If you get bitten by a vampire, the condition doesn't spread. It's not like a disease. However, it is commonly believed that you can become infected and become a vampire. So perhaps people not knowing this woman was a vampire and maybe the witches getting caught doing some ritual inflames belief that witches are turning people into vampires. Another interesting part of Vesemir being present for whatever this ritual is around this vampire, we know his past is important to the season somehow. Maybe this is the past it's talking about. We know the present day events, or present day so to speak, involve the vampires quite heavily. Maybe this is the link to the whole advertising of face your demons, Vesemir must face the demons of his past. Maybe he was present for a lot of this vampire storyline when he was actually a kid on his way to Kaer Morhen.
Hunting monsters for coin wasn't enough!
And now it seems Vesemir has gotten involved to some extent in whatever the hell Filavandrel wanted him to get involved in, but he's fucked it all up, and he did it behind Filavandrel's back, that's my guess. Or with the Kedweni king suspecting witches of staging monster attacks, maybe Vesemir has been running some sort of scam, which has backfired on non-humans. And here it is. This is the first look. Actually, I don't think it's the first look. It's a look at the mob of humans that is going to sack Kaer Morhen. They're going to storm the castle, and they're going to kill almost every single Witcher in the School of the Wolf. Spoilers, I know, but literally everything about this entire show and The Witcher Season 2 talks about this all the time. Let's face it, if you're watching this show, you're probably a fan of the books or the games, which means you know this already, so I'm going to talk about it. So we've got two of these mages or druids here. I think actually this one is a druid, given the hooded getup, and this one might be a mage, given this like sort of fancy shoulder guard thing here, I don't know. But they have very similar hairstyles, so maybe they're both just druids. And some cool features here. Deglin's sword. Oof, that is a sexy thing, my god. And also, this monster skull here, like this rhino or something? I mean, it looks pretty freaking cool that he's using that as a shoulder piece. And here we get our first proper look at Deglin's face.
You only think.
Another close look at the mob, and you can see there's a lot of people here. The witches are good in a fight, but two huge factors that are against them here. First of all, the numbers. I mean, there's like, what, 100 witches in the fort, and there's at least like maybe 300-400 humans here. Also, with how close quarters it is, it doesn't matter if a witcher can do a bajillion fancy sword tricks. If they get tackled down by 3 people, they're done with so many around them.
Keeping men from hunting us.
And that is Vesemir's medallion, covered in blood and not around his neck anymore. He definitely seems to have been screwed up by something.
But the scarier beast we keep away.
And a really cool close-up look of the Leshy here. And I'm just going to go back so you can hear all of Deglin's dialogue.
You only think keeping men from hunting us. But the scarier beast we keep away.
And so Deglin's spelling out one of the most important things about this story. Witches are so hated and feared that the second they pass the threshold, that there are so few monsters in comparison to before that people don't care about it as much anymore, they're going to be far more open and active with their hatred of witches because they don't need them as much. So in a way, despite the fact that the witches kill the monsters, they're dependent on them for their own survival, as we will see, because as the monster population goes down, hatred for them goes up, and then Kaer Morhen gets destroyed. Alright, so here we have another look at a werewolf under a lunar eclipse, or a blood eclipse. What is it called when the eclipse goes red? I don't know. So I wonder if, given the whole emphasis on the full moon here, this is this person's first transformation? Or maybe the moon is powering them up or something? Okay, so at first I thought this was a ghoul, but this looks to be the Leshy with the hood off. So we're getting a proper look at its entire body here. And it definitely has a very skull-like head. It looks to be very muscular, but its entire body, keep in mind, should be made out of wood. So that's gonna pack one hell of a punch there. And my god, it looks like it's about to tear Vesemir's throat out with its fucking teeth. And here we've got a look at one of the insectoid monsters from The Witcher. I guess it's about to try and kill baby Vesemir here. I guess this will be the creature that gives Vesemir the scratches on his medallion, perhaps? Because it's in the same kind of area with the lighting in the ground and the swamp and so on, that where we saw the bloody medallion with the scratches on it. So maybe Vesemir gets severely wounded in training by this creature. I'm just going to point out here, I am ignoring shots that I already analyzed in the previous trailer. Alright, that is a really cool close-up of this werewolf. I am loving the detail we're getting of the monsters in this anime. It's off the frickin' charts. Between this and the Leshy, it kind of looks goofy in this picture, but as it moves, it really looks good. Vesemir seems to be jumping around on the rooftops of this city fighting this werewolf. That just, oh my god, I can't wait to see it. So here we see Vesemir cutting up the Leshy a bit more, I think. And here he seems to be melting some sort of frozen lake. The next shot does seem to relate to it a bit, but I think given that they're from different times of the day, they're just trying to make a fancy visual of Vesemir burning this ice and possibly creating an avalanche. And yeah, that's ominous. So it looks like during the fight with the Broxer and the other vampire that happens in this old elven ruin, an avalanche gets set off. This is intense. I am loving how just out there they are going with the visuals in this. This is not something they could do in the show at all. Not at this stage. They would need more budget and more ambition, to be honest. What the fuck was that? Yeah, definitely vampire. Look at the whole shape here. So here we can see Tetra charging up her magic again. Oh, and it looks like she's crying here. So clearly something big has just happened. Maybe the druids were attacked. So we get a proper look at that Broxer again here. And this is interesting. The Broxer looks to be controlling this insectoid. Are there insectoid vampires in The Witcher? I'm just going to assume that these two are just more winter vampires. Some monsters in The Witcher lore, or at least in the game lore, are so powerful that they can control other monsters. In the Blood and Wine DLC, we discover that Dettlaff, one of the main villains, it has a special ability which allows him to control other vampires. So it seems this Broxer has a similar power. And that is really fucking bad, because if this Broxer has the power to command other monsters, it can conjure up an army to fight the witches. So I'd say that she is responsible for that bag of bloody witch medallions we saw in the other trailer. Okay, so here we've got a look at some actual soldiers. This is probably not the destruction of Kaer Morhen. I would assume this is something later, but maybe there were a few soldiers in that as well. But there's also some like brambles and stuff covering the walls, so maybe this has something to do with the Leshy attack. But it is possible that they're going to bring in far more factions into the final destruction of Kaer Morhen than there were in the books. There'll be the peasant rioters, there'll be soldiers from Kedwin perhaps, and there'll be vampires and other monsters thrown in the mix. It could be a total clusterfuck, which could either work really well in terms of upping the stakes, or it could be bad in the sense that it takes away humans being responsible for the destruction of Kaer Morhen, which is very thematically significant. And now we've got Vesemir using Igni, and I think this is the Leshy fight again. It has an arm around his throat, it looks like it's about to choke the life out of him despite his potions, and he's got one last ditch effort to blow it apart. And this looks like the laboratory inside Kaer Morhen being blown up. I mean, I guess there'd be some flammable shit in there. That's really bad. And I guess this plays into what Geralt was saying in Season 1. It's not just that they don't know how to make new witches anymore. The equipment was destroyed in the sacking of Kaer Morhen.
Witches! On me!
Goosebumps, oh my god. Alright, so it seems by the end of the season, regardless of whatever fuck-ups Vesemir's had, the other witches are rallying behind him now. And cool detail in this, it looks like this witcher is using a sign despite the fact that his arm is gone, which actually does connect to the witcher lore. Yes, actually focusing and creating the symbols with their hands makes the sign easier to use, but if they are skilled enough with the magic, they can just shoot it from their hand, whatever the position. And some have such mastery over it that they can do it without an arm. I'm assuming they're using either Ard or Ken in this scene. Ken you would have seen in the games a lot because you just spam it the whole game. You also see it in the show twice, I think. So I'm assuming they're using Ken to create a shield to block off the bridge entrance to Kaer Morhen that the peasants will be taking. Or they're all charging up one Ard spell together so they can just send them flying. Alright, I'm just going to show you that final bit at the end again because, my god, it has me so excited.
Witches! On me!
But yeah, that is my analysis of the final trailer, I assume the final trailer, for Nightmare of the Wolf. Subscribe for more Witcher content because I am just getting ramped up because this shit looks awesome.